All right. Well, that was some international exposure from you. From New Zealand to Australia to America to Australia. The seeds in that family are huge. Let's go international once again. We've got a horsewoman turned, I guess, author on the line. Amber, are you there?
I'm here.
All right. You're from the Midwest originally, I guess. What generation horsewoman are you?
Well, I have never gone a day in my life without horses. I am a second generation horse person. My son, Paul, 15, he's on his way to being third generation. We started racing out at the county fairs. I started driving when I was 16. Started training horses when I was about 10. I used to sit on my dad's lap going around the racetrack at the local fairgrounds here in southern Wisconsin. And I have two younger brothers. Neither one of them were interested in the horses, and we needed a driver, so I got my license, and I'm known around Wisconsin as the Pink Lady. My horses are always decked out in pink.
Okay, so you've started like this glitter bomb fascination with horsewomen across the country, I guess, with pink and purple and glitter, and I guess the originations start with you. So then I guess, what is your, exposure, on the national scene, or have you always been in the Midwest?
I moved out to Pennsylvania when I was 19 years old after I graduated high school. I worked for a stable out there, and we raced all over the place out there. We raced in Rosecroft and Pocono and Vernon and you name it. And then after that, I moved to New York. So I raced in Saratoga Springs. I raced in Batavia. And then after that, I moved up to Maine and met some wonderful people in Maine. So we raced in Scarborough. We raced some of the fairs, Rockingham, Plainridge, Meadowlands, Ocean Downs, Yonkers.
So you've raced like 12 to 15 racetracks. I mean, were you always a groom or just not listed as a proper trainer? Were you more of a second trainer then?
I was more of a second trainer. I did get my pari-mutuel license in Maine. I had a fair license when I moved out to Pennsylvania with the hopes of getting my pari-mutuel license. Saratoga Springs, Saratoga Raceway wouldn't give me my P license. So when we moved up to Maine, I asked the judges for my P license. And after a few qualifying drives that were satisfactory, they gave it to me.
So you drove in the fairs predominantly, but you drove, like you're saying, what you're saying is in a few pari-mutuels, not much, but you drove more in the fairs.
I did drive more than just the fairs, yes. I believe I had starts at Pocono. I had a few starts in Scarborough, Maine. I drove at Prairie Meadows in Iowa. So I've had a few pari-mutuels. I've mostly left it up to professionals.
And then as far as horses, I guess, throughout the years, were there any like prominent horses that people would remember? You know, were you with the same trainer all that time? Were you with just a couple trainers? Were you bouncing around?
I bounced around a little bit. I was with one for a while. But I did bounce around a little bit. We really didn't have any horses that were standout. You know, a lot of lower class claimers and things like that.
Okay, so I guess there's a story that's out there now. You came in contact with this horse from New Zealand, and
I did.
Do you want to just, tell your side of the story? Just tell your side of the story.
Well, when I was in Maine, I met this wonderful person. His name was Peter Cass, great friend of mine, him and his girlfriend at the time. So we met in Maine, and we were very good friends there in Maine. After a while, he went his way, I went mine, but we still kept in contact. And in 2013, I got a phone call from Peter, who was now racing in Ohio. And he said, Amber, I have a horse for you. He goes, you race at the fairs, right? And I said, yeah, I race at the Wisconsin County Fair Circuit, a little bit in Michigan, a little bit Iowa, Illinois. And he said, well, I have a horse for you that would be perfect for the fairs. And I said, okay. I said, well, what's the story on? He said, well, he just raced at Northfield Park and he broke down. Finished second and broke down and limped back to the paddock.
Okay, so just so people understand, why would somebody give you a broken down horse? Why would somebody go out of their way to call you, of all people, in Wisconsin? Why would this person call you? Like, people that don't understand might not understand. People in the business would understand, but Why would somebody call you of all people and say, hey, I got a broken down horse?
That's a great question, Eric. The vet told Peter to put the horse down. Peter said no. He says, this horse loves to race too much. He says he has all the heart in the world. He says he gives everything he's got. He says, I don't believe the vet. He goes, you can fix him. I know you can. The horse was 13 at the time, had a terrible suspensory injury, and Pete couldn't afford to keep him, to rehab him, and to bring back a 14-year-old to race pari-mutuel just really didn't make sense.
So how long would something like this take? Like, would you just put him in a stall for 6 months, a year? I mean, you're talking about stall time. You're talking about just sitting and feeding a horse and getting him fat and just letting that suspensory heal. How long does something like that take?
Well, we got him. He broke down in July. We got him in about August because it took that long for Pete to convince me to take him. I didn't want a broke down 13-year-old. I just didn't. And he still gives me a hard time to this day. Now, remember, this is a horse that you didn't want, right, Amber? And yeah. So we got him in August, gave him a few months stall rent, and then that good old-fashioned Wisconsin winter and snow on that suspensory ligament just did wonders. So when we started back jogging about April of 2014,
so
he was down.
7-8 months later, let's say?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, very slow, lots of cold water on those legs, wrapping it up every night, teaching my son how to wrap up a leg. It also, Derek Bomack, this horse, taught my son quite a bit about harness racing.
This is the day-to-day grind. This is the day-to-day bandaging, the day-to-day bathing, and like you're saying, using cold water. These are the things that you did to rehabilitate this horse, which is why this guy got in touch with you.
Every day, yes. Yeah, he knew that I love a horse with bad legs. I love them. You know, I love fixing them. I love the old horses. I love their stories, their histories, all the places.
Okay, so you get him back racing, you bring him to the fairs. What happens next?
Well, his very first start, he finished third. And every single time he went out on the track, you know, those legs are 14 years old. They've had 280 starts. We don't know how long they're going to hold up, so every race could have been his last.
Wow.
And I was driving him, and every time I would go out onto the racetrack, my son was 8 years old at the time, and the horse, this was his horse. So, and the horse was 14 years old. So the horse was older than his owner. I would ask my son, how do you want me to drive your horse today? Just to give him part of to feel included. I said, how do you want me to drive your horse today? He goes, Mom, just drive him so that when he comes off the racetrack, he's okay and he can go out and race with me again.
Wow.
So we raced him all that year around the county fairs, and we took him up to Michigan to the Go Give It County Fair up in Ironwood, Michigan, which is almost as far north as you can get. And we had a friend of ours, Gary McGee, drive him that day, and he won. And he won at 14 years old, and the horse that was never supposed to race again.
This is the first time he wins coming back from the suspensory injury, the stall rest, nurturing him back for the 7 or 8 months. This is and then how long did it take to get that win in that year?
That was in August.
Wow, so it's like a full year later.
July and August.
Wow. But it was in Michigan, it wasn't in Wisconsin.
No, it was in Michigan. So, and throughout the year, you know, the fairs, he had seconds and thirds and fourths and just going around the racetrack, participating. You know, he was right there. You know, never really wanted to push him too much because we didn't want him to get hurt.
But you must have been in tears, like just coming into Winter Circle and your son. You guys must have been in tears. We
were, but not as much as we were the following year. We brought him back at 15 years old. He was only one of 2 horses racing in the entire country that year at 15.
A true war horse.
So the odds are against him here. You know, he's 15 years old.
But he's a true war horse.
He's a true war horse. He really was. So we brought him back again at 15, wondering, is that leg going to hold up again this year? You know, how often is it that a 15-year-old is still racing?
Okay, so the name
Not
of the
very
horse,
often.
we were talking earlier, the name of the horse is Derek Bromack N. Now, the horse has a couple correlations. Derek has nothing to do with anything that we know of, but Bromack and N do. N is from New Zealand, but where does the name Bromack originate from?
Bromack is from Bromack Farms in New Zealand, where he was born.
So there's other Bromack horses out there, because I know, I remember a Duke. You said a couple others. What other Bromack horses are you aware of, I guess?
I remember a Dollars Bromack and a Drew Bromack racing at the same time.
So they could all be using D's, and we could probably look up the history of their farm. Look up the progeny of their sires, or somehow do the research. So let's get, I guess, to the present day. You race this horse, you bring him back. There's a story behind it, and you put it to print.
I did. My book is called Love to Race. It's the story of Derek Bromack N from his birthplace in New Zealand all the way to being shipped to California, his travels over 12 different states, 28 different racetracks,
wow,
$266,000, and 288 races in his lifetime, and two wins back-to-back at 15 years old in Ironwood, Michigan.
That's an amazing story. That is absolutely an amazing story. So you've been in contact with the people down in New Zealand. You're starting to get some exposure, I guess, within the industry, but most recently, I guess, you were on television, I guess, in the Midwest?
I was. We were featured on Fox 47 News out of Madison. We've been in the local papers around here. I've been on Race Talk Radio out of Kentucky, I believe. The United States Trotting Association has done a press release on me, and now I'm talking to you.
Well, we've seen the links out there. There's a link out there, obviously, with the publisher, but there's obviously a link out there with another big publisher people can find internationally. So everybody that's listening now, obviously, down in NZ, New Zealand, and Australia, do chime in and do look up this book. And I guess, what is the full name and your name? And I guess if you want to give a shout-out to the illustrator?
The illustrator is a very dear friend of mine. I've known her for 25 years. Her name is Tammy DeLeaf, and she's also out of southern Wisconsin, just like me. Like I said, we've known each other for 25 years. My publisher is just the same thing, out of Wisconsin, Mike Nikoi 11 Publishing. He's been my cheerleader, my rock, everything through this. I can call him anytime with any questions I have, anything I need. He's right there for me.
But the book itself is called
Love to Race.
Love to Race by Amber Sawyer, Sawyer. Is there anybody else in the industry that you want to give a shout out to, either your family or some of the trainers or anybody else in the industry, I guess, that was helping you throughout the years?
Just so many people that I've met in this business throughout. Everyone. There's so many that I'm still in contact with. There's just too many to name. I've met people from all over the country in this industry, some of the best, and they've just all been wonderful.
All right. Well, we appreciate your time. And you can look for us next week. We've got a huge interview, like we said, somebody out from the East Coast. We're going to find out his origins in the sport and go from there. But, Amber, we really do appreciate your time, and we wish you the best with the book. And hopefully we'll see a sequel. Who knows?
It's a possibility.
All right. We appreciate your time. And that's it for this week's edition of The Horseman's Voice. Tune in to us next week, and thanks again for your time.